Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 9 of the VR Inside podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathies YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at 4 p.m. in Europe, 3 p.m. in the UK, and 10 a.m. in Central US. And if you missed the show, you can catch up with it every Sunday where I upload the whole video to my own YouTube channel, Virtual Reality Oasis. Or if you just want to listen to the audio-only version, it's available on Google Play Music and on iTunes. If you've got any questions or comments during the show, please put them in the chat and we'll try our best to answer as many as we can. Also, I'd like to add, if you've got any feedback about how we can improve the show or make it better in any way, then please let us know as well, because we just want to make the show the best thing it could possibly be. So I just want to go around the room and introduce you to everyone. So he likes to drive rocket-powered cars in his spare time. That is Nathie. How you doing, man? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Enjoying the weekend, of course.
Excellent. We have got the new baby driver, Austin, the Brometheus. How you doing, man? You all right?
I like how for the entire hour and whatever that we're hanging out, no problems. And then the moment that it actually matters, it's like, hey, internet's gone now.
That always happens. It's like the magic of life, right? It's how we make it work. But we just roll with it. And it's such a shame because you look so fresh-faced now. I had like a whole Guy Fawkes anonymous, gag going on, but now you're so clean-shaven, I can't use it anymore. So,
Mike, stay out of the lower panels. They take your beard.
Exactly, yeah. The lower panels are beardless. So we have Zim Zimmer. Who's got the keys to my bimmer? It is ZimTalk5.
Oh man, every week it's like a theme song.
It's getting better.
It is getting better.
That's the thing. It's got to be fresh every week. It's got to be fresh every
These are
week.
fresh
How you doing,
beats.
Zim?
I want a song going with that now.
Guys, we should just end the podcast there because it's all downhill from this.
Yeah, it's not going to get better from here. Unfortunately, Rowdy is AFK today. Unfortunately, he can't make it. So he'll be back next week. Brometheus has dropped out very briefly, but I'm sure he'll be back, hopefully. And last but not least, obviously myself, host of the show, the bearded bald guy, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the Pimax 8K that has finally finished its Kickstarter, the Zephyr VR, which is also a Kickstarter project, Bullets and More, Blade Runner 2049, the Memory Lab, and also the update to Expect You to Die, which is called First Class. So we've got a lot to talk about on the show today. Hope you guys enjoy this one. So first up, we just want to talk about the Pimax 8K. So I feel like on a lot of these episodes just recently, we've been talking about a lot of hardware. So I don't want to sort of dwell on it too much longer and sort of get onto more sort of talking about games. But I think we got a lot of feedback on last week's episode saying that we were kind of hating on the Pimax a little bit. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think we were all just being a bit skeptical about what's going on with the Pimax, because I think, we all want this to be what they promise it to be, which is like the kind of, great field of view, higher resolution, going to be compatible with Steam, going to have some awesome controllers, tracking isn't going to be an issue. I think we all want it to be this great thing, but I just think we're all just kind of being a bit realistic on what potentially they can deliver right now, because, I've got some previous experience with Kickstarter, and I've had Kickstarters in the past that haven't basically come to fruition. So this is basically what I'm saying, just that we're just being a little bit realistic about what they can deliver on right now. Yeah. What do you guys think about this?
Well, Mike, you got a very good point again. Seriously.
Yeah. Because this is what we all want, right? We all want this major advancement in VR, but just, it all depends on whether they can deliver on this magical promise that they've talked about, which is, this, from what we've seen, friends of the show, Sweeviver, he has actually had some hands-on time with this device, VR days in Amsterdam. And he was very, very positive about what he tried. He said that the sort of field of view is very, very nice, because obviously our peripheral vision is 220 degrees roughly. And the 210 degrees of the Pimax sort of was very, very nice. And it only sort of had the very edges of a black screen in the very, very far corners if you really struggled to sort of really look out for it. So that was really, really nice. He said the resolution was a big bump up. You know, text is a lot clearer. But it's just a case of whether the implementation of all these things can work with Steam VR, and it's going to be sort of native to the SDK, so developers can just, you know, have this work with their game straight off the bat without having to implement any further bits and pieces to get it to work. So all I would say is that, you know, for those that sort of watched last week's show and thought we were hating on it a bit, I don't think that's actually the case. I think we are all pretty excited about the future of VR, and especially these big leaps in advancements. But it's just whether or not Pimax can pull this off or not is going to be the ultimate question, I think, for me. Yeah,
no, that's true. No, I think that the video, if you haven't seen the video of ZephVR yet, I would definitely check it out because it's giving a lot of good points. I do think that, like, you know, in the end, you need to try it for yourself and then decide if you want to get one. Okay, like that's still one of the main points. Even if a video is very good, like I do trust his opinion, but it's just like you also need to experience it. So it's like a mix. You need to like find a mix between two opinions where it's like, hey, I tried it, and I also watched reviews of other people saying this and that and that. So, but it's kind of hard because with the Pimax, it's like, you know, you need to buy it and that's it. You know, and it's the same with the Kickstarter. You pre-order one. It's not like I can buy one afterwards. As far as I know, you will be able to, I guess, after a while. But right now, if you want to get one, it's only by pre-ordering one, right? So.
Yeah, that's right. So it literally ended like I think it was yesterday or the day before, and their final amount of money that were backed is $4.2 million. So that's pretty impressive, you know, because that is a shed ton of money, and obviously they hit all their stretch goals as well. So it unlocked a lot of different accessories that you can get for the Pimax straight off the bat. So things like they hit the 3 million mark, which unlocks eye tracking. So that'll be included in the bundle as well. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that works. But yeah, like Nathie said, you know, if you're interested in the Pimax, I'd definitely head over to our friend ZephVR's YouTube channel. He's got a very, very nice video over there showing his sort of hands-on impressions with the device. And yeah, you know, he was very, very positive. So unfortunately now you kind of missed the boat if you do want to sort of back the project, because the Kickstarter is actually over now. But obviously it'll be interesting to see what happens once the Kickstarter orders have been fulfilled, how long this is actually going to take to come to market, so you can actually just go out and buy one or order one on the internet yourself. But yeah, so maybe ZephVR should maybe change the name of his channel to something like Sweet Pie or Sweetie Pie or something like that. He can be the official Pimax channel when it's released. So they hopefully, fingers crossed, will be shipping early next year. So we're talking sort of like February time is the rough ship date. Personally, I think they're going to struggle to meet that with the demands that they've got right now. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Like I'm very curious how it's gonna go with, like, we know that Oculus had some issues back then, you know, like shipping all the stuff. And that's like Facebook, you know, of course they said like, yeah, Facebook is new to this kind of stuff, so they really need to figure it out in a way. Like, what do you expect from the Pimax? Like, they need to, like, they have like 4 mil right now, right?
Yeah,
so it's like they really need to step it up.
Yeah, 4.2 million, you know, it's not a number to be sniffed at. And like, I can't remember where I read it, but it said that they have like a 15,000 staff manufacturing plant where they can literally crank these headsets out. So if that is the case, like if they've got 15,000 people and like a previously tested manufacturing line, then maybe they can deliver. And I really hope they do, because I want to see this thing succeed, because, you know, I think these big advancements in VR is kind of what we all want. Like, I know mobile is the kind of the way that the other manufacturers are going, like HTC, with their Vive Focus, and then you've got Oculus with like the Oculus Go and the Santa Cruz. They're all sort of heading down the mobile route, whereas Pimax are really the only ones that are saying, actually, we're going to focus on the real high-end enthusiast level and make something that's really sort of next gen. So I just want to sort of clear the air a little bit with Pimax. You know, we're not hating on them. It's just that we're a little bit skeptical. That's all I would say.
But I mean, they make like a huge leap compared to the rest, you know? I think the rest was going for like, let's say the new Rift is not going to get close to that whole 8K headset, or the new Vive that has not been announced yet. Yeah. But you know what I mean? So it's like they are really going maybe like... they make like a big jump in a way, technology-wise. Yeah. And that's the question: is that like too early or not? That's what we need to like see, like based on all the consumers that tried it. I mean, yeah, based on the demos people played on all the conventions and expos, we heard great stuff. But how is it gonna be when the real headset is out? Because these were prototypes, not the one you get at home. So that's a difference, of course.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens. And obviously, you know, come February, hopefully when they do start shipping, we'll have some early hands-on experiences from sort of real life testing with Steam VR. Yeah. But also it's interesting because they just released an update. I think it was shortly after they finished, but it was about the controllers. So get this right. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but so they said that they're going to use these kind of like knuckle controller design. But they're going to offer you two options. So you can actually choose when you fill out the survey at the end, whether you're going to have a touchpad on both controllers or a thumbstick on both controllers. So they actually give you the choice between the two options. Oh. Yeah.
Which one's that on, Mike?
So that's going to be the Pimax in general. So whether you choose the Pimax 5K, the 8K, or the 8KX, you're going to have two different controller types that you can choose from. When you sort of fill in your survey.
They kind of look like the Steam VR knuckles, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Say you have Steam VR knuckles with thumbsticks.
Yeah. Like personally, you know, I'm so used to the Oculus Rift now that I don't think I could move to touch.
I like thumbsticks.
Yeah, I like thumbsticks, especially with games where you've got free locomotion. I think thumbsticks are nicer to use.
Again, like if you try both. Like I like both of them. I have no problem going from thumbsticks to touchpad again. It's like, you know, if you have a mix of that in a way, that would be so awesome, I guess.
Yeah, so that's when you're talking about the new Windows mixed reality controller, really, that they've implemented them both. But
after your review, I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah, but, I don't think we'll be all jumping to that platform anytime soon. But it's interesting
maybe
anyway.
Samsung is going to save it. You never know. Like the Odyssey could be the savior.
I'm going to put my money on the Odyssey being the one that saves the Windows mixed reality platform. I don't think the others really have anything to offer. But yeah, the Samsung's definitely going to be the interesting one. And I'm definitely interested in checking it out when it comes out. And I think, you know, coming to December, I think maybe my opinions on it may sort of change slightly. But it's the tracking thing that bothers me the most. So until I get another hands-on with it and test it with some Steam VR titles, I guess we're not really going to know just yet. But again, you know...
You mean the tracking behind the head? Is that what you meant, Mike?
Yeah. So like I mentioned it before, and again, you know, it always happens when, you know, you sort of voice an opinion like this, that you're going to get people that are passionate about one platform or the other are going to accuse you of being fanboy-y or biased in some way. But like I think it's just the fact that I was disappointed in what it offered, because, you know, I've had it before in a couple of games where I've been holding back enemies, like I said in last week's episode, behind my back and shooting behind me almost, whilst protecting myself from the front. And I just don't think it's going to be possible because it locks it in place as soon as it loses the tracking. So it's kind of locked in a single position. But, you know,
I feel like
we'll see.
That's a super immersion breaking thing too, is like there's so many times, at least like from my experiences, you're often like either reaching behind or like not looking at something that you want to grab. Like you just naturally, you will grab things in a certain way depending on the situation. And if you go to do that and then like everything comes crashing down, I feel like that's going to be a huge issue.
Yeah, and like I just want to be clear, like I never really had any problems with that when I played with it, but it's just what I'm guessing when it comes to a lot of the Steam VR titles, because they're not going to be optimized for this platform. They're just going to be optimized for the platforms we've already got. So that will be the test come December when we can get some real hands-on feedback from people that are trying it out with this new platform. But yeah, so moving on from sort of like the Pimax onto another piece of hardware that is on Kickstarter. So I don't know if any of you guys have heard about this, but this is called the ZephVR. Now, the ZephVR is an accessory that attaches fans to any VR headset to add realistic wind to a headset. So when you're flying, falling, or accelerating, you can feel the wind actually in-game. So this is kind of like a rumble pack, if you were, for VR, but introducing wind.
Here's my question with that, though, is do the sand, because there's really small fans, do they have that little whining? Because if every time you start to fall, you start hearing this like electric whine, that's going to be really annoying. Like the benefit of that like immersion factor is going to be lost the second I start hearing this like little jet engine, you know?
I fucking hate 40 mil fans. I modified a past motherboard. I literally had to break them off the motherboard in order to get rid of them, just to get rid of that noise. Because I agree with you, that is a problem.
Yeah, imagine 2 of them an inch from your face.
Yeah, that is going to be a problem if they're not quiet, definitely.
Plus, I mean, the difference is, like, there were fans before. I forgot, like, the name of those, but they were on top with, like...
Vive and Chill. Zim mentioned that earlier.
Vive and Chill, and I think that's we've seen a few people kind of review it. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But it's basically just reversey, right? I mean, these are on top, these are on the bottom, the other ones were on top, so I don't really see much of a difference between the two.
So they, no. I think like it's gonna be great if you play like Sonic VR, okay? Like running and then it's like wind, I'm gonna go faster, but I think more like for an effect it's cool, but like I'm not sweating that much. I see a lot of people are like, whoa, VR, it's so intense. Depends like what you play, I guess, but it's not.
You're also not 400 pounds, Nathie. So I mean, there's a difference if you're a little bit.
That's true.
And it's not to say that a skinny guy can't be out of shape. I'm definitely on paper out of shape. If I tried to run a mile, you'd see. But you know, like I think there's definitely differences in terms of people's appetite for physical VR, and it's really interesting to see how people take it up. But like we've talked about these two things. We talked about Vive and Chill and Zephyr VR, which is the one below. Something that I saw, and I wish I had the name of it, someone in chat I'm sure will know it, was these 2 little pods that you sit on your desk and blow hot and cold air at you. And that looked kind of interesting. Like something like that I'd go for. But the issue with all of these systems is the same, and it's the same issue that I face, like I showed on last week's tactile transducers, butt kickers, this kind of rumble thing, is that if it doesn't match what you're experiencing 95% of the time, you'll feel that noise part. Like for instance, someone with a bassy voice jumps in and starts talking to me, and I feel it in my back, or I feel it. It's like, that's weird, right? Like, you know, somebody like bro talking, right? Rumbling my bumble. You know, that should.
He rumbles my bumble every time.
I mean, it's kind of cool to like customize your Vive in a way. I also see it like some kind of gadget. It's kind of like, whoa, look at my sci-fi headset. You know, I mean, like ZephVR used it. I've seen this video on it, but like you got then the fans on it, and you got like a Leap Motion on front, for example, and all kinds of it. But it's like, you know, I saw one of my. Yeah, I mean, I saw one of my followers saying like, I don't need wind, I need more good titles. And again, that's true. Like, this is just an extra. But hey, if you're crazy and you're like, haha, I need this, then it can be kind of useful. But I don't know, like down there, I don't know if that's like up there was fine in a way, but like having them down here, nah, I don't know. Maybe you can change like the position of those. I'm not sure how they have been built, but
so I got a question actually for you guys, related to the comment that Nathie made about you know, like good titles and all that. I wonder, like friends of yours, do you know anyone who's gotten into VR in the last 6 months and had that kickback feedback, which they said like there just isn't enough? Because if I take stock to myself, like how much is out there, honestly now, especially covering the 3 headsets, like I find it's like a little bit overwhelming. Like November is going to be insane.
It's too
well, in
much.
a good way or a bad way.
In a bad way, I think. It's too, like, imagine if you had no idea anything about VR and you stepped in right now. Where do you even start? Like, okay, do I want a console one? Should I wait for this other console one? Do I want it to be standalone? Is standalone okay? Do I have a computer that can do this? How expensive is it going to be to get that? Like, there's so many questions you have to ask that by the time you're done asking them, half the people will have already stepped away. Like, they're not going to be interested anymore. It's, you know, it's just like anything. You can actually sell an inferior product if it's the most convenient, And because of how inconvenient all of these different headsets are to even think about, you're ending up with this market that is so fractured. It's difficult to even get a grasp of where to start, you know?
The only thing I noticed is that like last year I made a video of like all the best titles out there, like make like a promo of 2 minutes of all the games, all the best ones. And I'm working on one now, and I noticed that like 2016 was a very great year for VR and had like not that many titles, but good ones. And now we got bombed with shovelware, games that weren't like totally finished, that had to get tweaked for months and months and months. Like there weren't that many like star titles, and of course, Fallout, stuff like that. But it's not enough to say this was better than last year, in my opinion, at least.
That's natural, isn't it? Because like 2016 was the year of, okay, all the businesses who wanted to throw money at something and like make it for the wave, that was the push, right? The push was launch with the headsets or soon after to capitalize on that market. And then after that happened, I noticed it in my like viewership and everything else. Like there's definitely, and if you looked at like Google search terms back in summer, there was a huge lull globally wide around VR for the first half of the year. And I think it's picking up again. But you're going to see that lagged by 6 months or a year in terms of development titles, you know, hitting that quality meter. I think they're still coming. I really do get the feel that it's picking up again. But
it's
we
just
saw
that,
the doldrums,
The problem was like this year was like the expectations were like really high in a way. And then you kind of got disappointed a lot with a few titles out there. And I mean, if you bring out like the AAA developers to make a VR game, especially if you fund them, then you expect at least something. So we have seen things from like, let's say, Halo Recruit to things that are super nice, like Arctica 1, like Lone Echo. I think Lone Echo is definitely one of the like, I think it would be in my top 5 of best games of this year, like polished wise, you know, the characters with very nice story, and then a multiplayer that is like a blast that almost became an esport. I mean, Oculus is clearly trying to make it an esport. It's pretty hard to make something an esport, I can tell you that. Like an esport is getting picked by the players, not by the companies.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Very, very true. Actually, Mike, what did you think? Because obviously when we were there at OC4, there was a big drive to esports. I mean, they were dedicating half of the show floor to esports.
Yeah, like I definitely think that VR in esports is going to become a really big thing, because I think, like you said, you touched on it earlier, was that you're going to have to be physically fit yourself to be able to perform a lot of these functions in the game to be good at it, right? And like what we saw with a lot of the Echo Arena players, you know, they're almost turning into like little rock stars themselves and having little followings, and you know, people are like fanboying over them, and they had this really like sick stage set up where they were all standing on these little podiums, you know, and you could see their sort of displays from their headsets behind them. It was a really, really slick setup, like super, super nice. And obviously with games like Echo Arena and The Unspoken, for example, I think we're only going to see more of this to come. And it's something that definitely, like, I'm not a massive competitive player, but I appreciate, like, you know, people that are, because it does take a lot of skill and a lot of practice and a lot of dedication to be good at something like that. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years ahead of us, where I think this is going to be a real thing that booms over the next couple of years.
Yeah. But, so do you think like is esport maybe a little bit too like early for VR in a way?
No, I don't think so. I think it's
be picked, you know, that's it.
I think it's going to be small. I don't think it's too early. I just think it's going to be small because of the nature of VR. Because I mean, literally just look at Twitch. If you go on Twitch and look at like the amount of esports that people want to watch is just exploding, you know. Like I remember watching a CSGO tournament and there's like over 1 million people watching at the same time, and it's just, that's insane. So it's like, you know, you translate that into a smaller overall audience that is still just growing. Yeah, it's not going to be the same impact, but I don't think it's too early. I mean, people, you know, took Onward and just forced it to be an esport in a way. You know, they made that like community tournament and stuff. Like people just want it. If you want a game to become an esport, it's going to. You know, so I think that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, but I also, like, when I played Onward for the first time, I was like, this is going to be the first esport. And that's the thing. Like, it's Echo Arena, but it's because they pump money into it in a way. And then you just kind of, like, keep it alive in a way. but that's not the way it works, you know. Like CS:GO and all those casual games, no one ever said like, okay, this has been built to be an esport. I have the feeling that Echo Arena was kind of also, they developed it into that direction in a way. Maybe not, but I do have the feeling it was like Oculus, like, okay, we want to have like an esport kind of game too, so maybe you should go a little bit that way.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think the next iteration of those kind of games, like the next iteration of Onward, the next iteration of Pavlov, will be probably the ones that get picked up, you know, and adopted more as a mainstream esport. It's just that, like, I dip in and out of those games every now and again, but you know, it's the graphical quality of those games don't really match up with like Echo Arena, for example, in my opinion.
How dare you, Mike? How dare you? Quality. Game design first.
I know, and like, you know, I've said this before, so I'm kind of contradicting myself in a way that, you know, you don't have to have great graphics to have a great experience, like with Superhot, for example. But certainly games like Onward and Pavlov, I think it needs that like Echo Arena polish to be like really, really amazing, and it's just not quite there yet.
I actually think it's the controls. I mean, if I was to jump in, I'd say the controls feel a little bit hokey in some of the games, and you know when they've nailed it. Like yesterday, we were playing Rec Room, and I was like, "Wow, the feeling of the bow." You know, you guys felt it when you played, you know, Valve's introduction in the lab, right? When you felt that bow and the tactile feedback, the little like tick, 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 as you pull the bow back, like those kinds of feelings. They just got right. They like hit it home, and it's like, this feels good as a human being using this system. But some of them, as you say, are like you're fuddling with the buttons. You're like, I can't get with this. It's that same hurdle that we had to get through. I mean, look at the NES controllers, right? They were literally a box, like the opposite of ergonomics.
Yeah.
So
So I just want to touch back on the Zeph, because we have gone off on a bit of a tangent a little bit. Going back to the Zeph, obviously this like wind machine that you attach to your headset. So apparently it uses machine learning to recognize the sound of wind and motion in VR games. So this means that it's going to work apparently out of the box. So it's going to be available for the Rift, the Vive, and the PSVR. So you can back this on Kickstarter. It's got plenty of time left. I think it's got like 28 days to go.
How much do they want for this product?
Okay, so it's $75 for the Rift and the Vive version, and $79 for the PSVR version.
And what is their goal?
They've already accomplished their goal already. I think it was something fairly low. But this is the thing, like out of all the titles that I've played recently, there is just one game that stands out in my mind that this thing would be amazing.
I know.
I want to hear this.
So you ready for it?
I think I know.
Drum roll. It is Windlands 2. Because Windlands, it gives you that amazing sense of freedom, and you're swinging through the trees, and having that wind in my beard, like brushing through my beard, as I swing through the trees.
Beard, yeah. Okay, I don't have a beard, so I don't understand what you're talking about. But
I think that would be a lovely experience.
I think Climby would be another one. Climby, or like To the Top. You know, you're like flying through, about to grab a building, you got the wind coming through. That would be cool.
I can tell you one. Coaster games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's one where you get that feeling of like, oh shit, it's just coming at you like full speed.
That would add another layer that I think would work really well. Like the belly drop effect would probably be amplified just because your body's like, oh fuck, we're actually falling. You know.
I don't want a device that does that, by the way. I don't want the belly effect. I don't want to strap electrodes to my tummy. I'm good.
Yeah.
You could also do it in a way where you play like Garn, where you like have the maze and then suddenly it speeds up when you like, you know, or it's like you really feel like the wind of the impact you're gonna have in a way. I don't know if that's, I don't know how much time it needs to start up. Like you don't want like and then like how much noise is gonna make. Like you don't know it, because if you also want to talk to someone, because it is like below, it's like at the microphone's part too. So like, how is that gonna work? If that's gonna blow into your mic,
that is a very good point, Nathie. I think that we just had that. I've had that problem so many times where like, whether it's the Vive or the Rift, like some noise, either someone breathing too heavily, because again, they're maybe out of shape and they're like puffing properly, or just picking up off of like me. I'm a nose breather. If I have my mic down here, you know, it's going to pick up the nose. So I usually have to leave it above the nose.
So. Yeah, and if it's going to blow around the headset and you can hear those ergonomics, then I don't know. So developers of this amazing and interesting gadget, if you want to send us one and we can test it, then that would be nice.
I definitely want to test it in Winlands too, definitely. I hope the Winlands team have seen this. I'm sure they have, and they are doing some tests with it, because it'll be interesting to see how they implement something like this.
I will say this, in its defense, sorry to cut you off, man.
Sure, go for it.
I just wanted to say, you know, I was thinking about it while we were talking, and we were comparing it to like a motherboard fan of that size, right? But a motherboard fan of that size is actually trying to dissipate a lot of heat. And I guess in the reality, it probably won't be spinning very fast, because if it's trying to replicate just natural wind, it probably won't be spinning very fast. So it might not actually have the same sound issues that we might think it will. So I think it has a little bit more potential than maybe we give it credit for. But I think it's going to be interesting. You know, it'll just be a hands-on thing that tells us whether that's true or not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, I know we mentioned the Vive and Chill as well before. Like, the Vive and Chill is obviously a device that's designed to cool you down, whereas this is a device to help you sort of get more immersed into a game by implementing some sort of feedback. That's the difference. Right. It's not supposed to be designed for cooling. It's designed to get that wind experience. There's sort of a definition between the two there. But I like the fact that people are making more accessories for VR. It shows that the industry is growing, that people want to sort of, modify their devices and add stuff to it in a way. So I kind of welcome that, but whether that's going to be any good or not is going to be another thing. But
it's a whole hobbyist thing, actually, Mike. Like, I mean, it's something that in the early days of VR, it was so obvious. It was the garage people, the Palmer Luckies of the day, right, who actually made this to the point where it is now sold off, obviously, developers, business people who said, okay, this is gonna go. And anyone who stepped into a headset is obviously, not everyone, 98% have been infatuated with it enough to say, let's carry this forward. It's why whenever I hear the comment of, oh, well, VR isn't a certainty yet, I laugh at that, because I honestly think there are so many people, not just people like us, who are infatuated with it and like totally sold on the idea of this technology, but even people who are like, okay, maybe VR isn't a thing for me. I'm not a gamer. I'm not into architecture, whatever. It's not something, once you've seen that, it's kind of like, you've seen another flavor of ice cream. Like, I don't think that's going to go away. I really doubt it at this stage.
You're absolutely right. It's all about getting people in a headset to convert them, in a way. You feel like you're part of a VR cult and you need to convert everyone. But once you've got them in a headset, then, like you say, it's almost like they've taken the red pill, right? And in the Matrix, and they finally, their eyes are open to what is possible now. And I think that's why, in a way, I'm very excited about the new iterations of mobile, because it's going to be easier for me to show these off to other people, friends and family, to get them on the hype train as well.
It's easier to preach on the road.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting piece that was brought up on Reddit about 2 years ago that actually forecasted, it's kind of like Ready Player One, if anyone's read that book, where it forecasted this like dystopian final state for VR, where people were, I don't want to say cut off from society, but marginalized to an extent by the technology itself. And I thought that was really interesting, and the posts that I've seen, as I said, on Reddit, it's really good to kind of have a scan of those, because there are some options out there for our far future, maybe next 20 years even, that if we end up there, it could be a really tough thing for humanity. The kind of connections, like what happens if the need to physically connect drops off even more than it has today? Because I can tell you, kids growing up today, like meeting in person versus meeting on the internet, and like it's faster, it's more convenient. I want it now on my device all the time, and I kind of see us going that way. I don't know if I'm scared of it or kind of open arms to it. It's more just a question mark in my mind.
I got something on the opposite end of that, though. Think about this. So when I was, when I was a kid, I wasn't very like social or anything. So if I were to get onto a game, I would feel way more comfortable, like Xbox Live or something, right? Yeah. Back in those days, it was way more comfortable to talk to people because, you're not actually like right next to them. Yeah. So if you think about this, let's say like some kid in the same situation, like gets into Rec Room. Maybe they're more likely to socialize because they're through a game. So it's definitely worth saying what you're saying, but I think it also provides maybe a different opportunity to learn like social skills, whereas you might not if you didn't have this like virtual reality thing. And it's also worth mentioning that in virtual reality, it's a more natural thing than it would be to just listen to audio in the lobby or something, So I don't know. I think there's both sides of the coin when it comes to this dystopian society thing,
No, I agree. I think you're completely right. You know, I think it's going to be an amazing way to connect people together. And the way I kind of always think of it in the future is kind of how I use FaceTime now. So a couple of my family live overseas, so I have to FaceTime them, and it's such a brilliant way of communicating people because it's free for one, but also I can see their reactions to what I'm saying, and you feel more of a connection when you see that. But when they're physically, when they're sort of got this feeling of presence and they're in the room next to you, well, that's going to take it to another level, and that's where I think that we can make it better. But yeah, I think you're right that potentially we could be stepping back a little bit from real connections with people, and there'll be more sort of like in the digital world, but I don't know whether that'll be a bad thing or not. I'm not sure.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Got an opinion on that one, Nathie?
Well, I would say for now it's fine. Like, people are still socializing in real life, but it's getting like right now. Sometimes my brother is like, "Hey, I'm going on a trip for like 3 weeks," and it's like, "Okay, yeah, have fun, bye." Because I know I can talk to him on the internet. So, like, you know, I don't need like a postcard or anything. So it seems like people already like care less because they can just connect with someone on a very lazy and easy way, where it's getting less personal. Of course, like you can build up relations and friendships on the internet, but it's different, you know.
Look at you guys, for example. You know, like we're all connecting. We all live in different parts of the world.
Yeah,
we meet up every Saturday and talk about something that we're passionate about. You know, it's crazy. This would never be possible, you know, in the past, and it's only in the future where I think that, you know, maybe we can hang out in a virtual studio. I'm sure we're not actually that far away from that.
Next year, totally on the roadmap for strategy for this podcast next year, Mike, is we're going to be doing at some stage.
We'll have our own virtual studio, and you guys and listeners can come and sit in the audience and see it live that way.
But what I think that is like the most dangerous thing about VR right now, with all the communities you see like getting like growing really fast in social apps, is that, so let's say, for example, VR chat, people can meet each other there and just be who they are. Right now, they do a very good job at that. You know, you get like moderators there and they keep an eye on it. But you also see people bullying now, and that's like next level bullying. Like right now, I mean, you guys have heard stories where people suicide because they got bullied so many times because of pictures on the internet, or they have been getting called on Skype all the time. Like with VR, like there are no rules for that yet.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, how is that gonna work? How is that gonna, because right now there is no guideline for that. Like they didn't even figure out a guideline for the internet itself yet. And now you got VR that is even next level. So it's like, you know, that's the only dangerous thing I see right now happening within VR.
There's another one. I back in the early DK2 days, I was asked a lot about, you know, it's the, do you cover adult content, this and that. One of the things I came across that was really interesting to me was adult film actors who said, I don't want, I'd like, you know, my industry's going down this body scanning route and all that. And they're like, well, I don't want my, you know, my body, my image, all of that imported into a computer that you can then do whatever you want with it. Because think about it, you know, you could put them into whatever situation you wanted. And I would just say that, you know, be cautious about new technology, but at the same time, you know, it's going to open up opportunities as well.
But it's interesting what you said about being bullied in VR, Nathie, because I've looked into this before, and I remember reading a really interesting article, and it was about sexual harassment in VR. So I think a girl had gone into Rec Room. She was just enjoying one of like the games, and then some guy is like right up in her face and touching her inappropriately, and you just think, well, these people would never do this kind of behavior in real life, and yet they're in this virtual world, and all of a sudden they're sort of showing their dark side. But this is like something that's a really interesting topic, because Oculus Connect, they've included some new features that are going to be available in the future where you can block people and they will never be put in the same room as you again. And there's good ways to prevent people from stalking you or harassing you in any way. So I think Oculus, in a way, have the foresight to think this might actually be a problem, and we need to kind of put the tools in place to solve this before it becomes a problem. So it's definitely an interesting topic.
But you're right. Like if I think about it, when I went into the Rec Room many times, and sometimes it's so awkward. Then I got like an 8-year-old trying to kiss me. I don't know who that is. Like if you would do that in real life, it's like what is going on? Yeah. Like the connection is like that's so weird. Yeah. Like after a while, it's like, okay, well that's VR then, and if people think that's the standard, then that's freaking weird. Yeah. But it's like, but also older people and you got so many. But that's it. Like you got all the classes of people, also IQ related, of course, all together, and you got people that are 8 years old, 20 years old, 40 years old. Because Rec Room, there's still a lot of older people using it too. It's not that it's like overrun by kids. That's not true. No. But you know what you can expect there. But they try to up the age, but they don't seem to be able to because there is no luck on it.
On
but
that point, I think actually we talked about maybe stepping backwards in time, right? Like, and some of the steps with VR maybe taking us back a step. My wife and I are big into this idea of like kids these days, right? Like you go into school and you're in this class with these kids of the same age, and then you kind of become ageist to an extent. If you go through kind of normal schooling and you don't have huge, social groups or gatherings with people of all ages. So it's an important thing for parents, right, to get kids into that. But the same thing you're saying, I think that virtualization of our universes, of our personal spaces now into VR is actually going to reduce those boundaries. It allows an 8-year-old to be able to kind of socially interact with a 3-year-old as much as a 40-year-old, and that's going to happen a lot more. Like back in the day when we all lived in a big wigwam and just 40 people in a building.
Because that's the difference in real life. When I'm sitting on my bike, it's not like an 8-year-old is coming after me. They have their own friends to play with. I got my friends to play with. That's it. But in VR, it's like, because I don't mind. I mean, it's very fun to play basketball with like a 10-year-old in VR. I'm not like, hey, you're 6, so whatever. But it's just that, it's so weird sometimes because they live in a dream world and I don't. Not anymore, So it's like, I live in a real world now, help me.
So going back to education, it's an interesting point because I think certainly in the future, like we're talking like many years into the future now, when VR technology is a lot cheaper, but it would give, especially if you read the book Ready Player One, it will give kids the opportunity to go to school and stuff in places where they don't have access to schooling. They could literally just log in and share a classroom with maybe like 1,000 or 10,000 other kids that are all logged in. And be taught things without actually physically moving or going to like a school, because maybe they live in a dangerous area, a part of the world where going to school is going to be a really dangerous thing for them. So if they can get that experience at home and still be educated, then I think that's going to be a fantastic thing. And there's so many applications there, and I think on next week's show we're going to be talking about how VR can help people recovering from illnesses and things like that as well. So it's definitely just not for games. Like, there's so many ways and applications that VR can be used to assist people in their everyday lives.
Yeah. It's going to be great for theft on a train, by the way. I mean, someone's going to be in their mobile VR headset. Oh yeah, and then the person just disappears. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I've seen so many like memes of people on trains with VR headsets on. It does look ridiculous.
Did I tell you a buddy of mine did a 4-hour journey with his full-on PC rig playing Elite Dangerous on his journey back from Scotland down.
Wow.
4 hours in VR.
Did he have one of those like backpack rigs or something? Like that's...
No, he lugged his Asus PC with him and plugged it in on the train.
What?
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
That is next level. That is next level.
Oh my God.
So I just want to move on to a game called Bullets and More. So a couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to join Zim on one of his Friday night live streams. So obviously, if you want to check him out on Twitch, I would recommend you go and do that because he plays some awesome games. But we played some games like Windlands 2, Tractable, and this Bullets and More, which we refer to as BAM for short. But out of all the experiences, I think Windlands 2 was probably my standout one. But BAM was a very interesting one. And maybe you've been playing this quite a bit, Zim, just recently, is that right?
I have been playing this a lot, actually. So I was playing this last night for about an hour and a half, and the thing is, if you like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and you like previous kind of esports games, we were talking about esports earlier, and I think this is a perfect segue from that, which is things like Survivor games in DayZ, Battle Royale, previous almost esports games where you could watch competitors and it's last man standing or last person standing, where you've got X number of people, and then you're going down to one left. It is really, really, it works so well in VR, and we've been playing it, and it's like you got ammo and guns scattered about the place, and you might find that all you're picking up is attachments, and you might find that when you drop, boom, rocket launcher loaded, ready to go right in front of you. So it's a very fast-paced game, and I think what we're talking about here is a specific sub-component of Bullets and More. Bullets and More actually started off as a gunplay game like H3VR or these other titles that people know about where you've got gun mods and all that. But it
shooting range kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
but you're saying that the game mode is very nice in a way, where it's like it's exactly simulating what people want, like PUBG. So let's say if they would convert that into Onward, for example.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you had like visuals of Onward, right? Because at the moment it looks very basic.
I think BAM, the biggest difference between like say like H3 and BAM is just BAM is still trying to go for that like hyper realism where you can do all the things and but it's much simpler. So I feel like a lot of the times things are more natural. So like H3 VR, you can do anything that you could do in real life, essentially, you could do in this virtual reality. But sometimes they're kind of like little convoluted little things to do on your controller that you wouldn't naturally think to do. And BAM does a really good job of making most of the things that you would want to do very intuitive. So because of that, like especially if you jump into one of the multiplayer games, you pick up those things really quickly. Especially even if you haven't played the game before, if you played any like if you played Onward or something, you'll naturally pick it up, and that's what I like about that game. And the developer is really nice, so that's also a plus.
It's probably also worth noting that the scale isn't there yet, so we're not talking 100 players. It's 12 players. You drop from a parachute. Parachute auto deploys. You can control where you land. And I would say that I have not seen a game light up this fast. Like all the buddies who I've got across the net who've got VR, 90% of them are playing BAM. Like that's it, and as I said, we got Mike in. I hadn't played with Mike before, so although I think I hooked him.
But that's it. It's a
tractor game.
It's just PUBG in VR. That's what it is, and that's like on the internet. It has been proven many times for people like, wow, Call of Duty in VR or Battlefield in VR or whatever, FIFA in VR. Maybe that's gonna be a thing. I don't know. But Rocket League in VR too. And every time people want to see that stuff they play casually. They want to see it in VR, and I think like they are so. Yeah, Rocket League.
Rocket League in VR would be Vomit Festival.
We've done it. Mike, tell them.
There's a game out.
Yeah, we've done it in tractors. It's called Tractable.
Oh my God! How many times did you throw up in the first 10 minutes?
Okay, like I have to be honest here. Like I did actually feel pretty rough near the end. But it's because like, I'm actually quite susceptible to motion sickness. Like I've got like hardened to it over the years, but like it was the movement. Like I was driving a tractor backwards, like almost doing like a spin in it to try and flick the ball with my bumper at the front.
Which sounds amazing, by the way.
It was pretty cool. Like, and I think I managed to last about 40 minutes, and then I was like, the last 20 minutes I was really hanging. But after that, like I was fine. I didn't have to take a break. We just jumped in straight into the next game, and I got into it, and I was fine. But yeah, tractable is a thing.
It was actually
awesome.
It was actually really fun because the thing I totally underrated the game when I played it with like no other players and just bots. Like it just didn't work for me. And if you have 2v2, it's a 2v2 game. You're a tractor with this flipper on your face. And then the coolest thing about the game, I have to say, is the pickups. So like Mario Kart style, you've got these pickups. Like you can drop a cow that someone else will drive through, and then it's gore all over your screen. Like it is actually brilliant from a game design perspective. It looks ugly, but the game again is wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But it's the same with like the whole PUBG game mode right now in BAM. I mean, let's be honest, the game is not looking that great, and it also doesn't play like the best shooter out there. But like the game mode, that's it. The trick. That's what people want, and no one delivers that. And then they were smart enough to cater everyone that is like, I like PUBG now. Now I can also play it in VR. So why would I play PUBG on my monitor if I can play it in VR now?
Yeah,
that's it. Like that's why people come back to VR.
I did that. I did that this week. Someone's like, "Oh, do you want to play Battlegrounds?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm playing BAM now. Sorry, guys."
That's exactly it. So you are like the casual PUBG doesn't do it for me because it's more immersive, and that's what we need more in VR. Because right now people are like, oh, I put my headset on the shelf and I'm just gonna play myself some Battlefield or maybe some PUBG. But if you got those game modes and they kind of get you into that kind of like, then it's great. It is. It's very genius that they did it. And like,
it's an amazing experience, like parachuting in and seeing where everyone else is landing, and then you can actually steer your parachute to go towards someone, because sometimes you're armed with a knife, so you could quickly just run up to them and get like a really quick early kill just by like stabbing them. But which was my kind of tactic, because I suck at aiming. But the best thing about the whole experience was the spectator mode. So like once you're out, you can actually spectate over the whole map, and you can zoom in, scale it, do whatever you want. You're like a ghost almost. No one can see you other than the other spectators, and you could like zoom into the action, and it's almost like watching a little movie in a way, because the tension is building up where you see two players, they're kind of converging on each other. One of them's like really like taking it carefully and tactfully, like clearing their corners and stuff. And then you see the interaction when they finally come head to head, and then this little shootout happens, and it's just like watching a little action film or like TV show in front of you. It's so nice. The spectator mode is really genius, and I hope that more games implement something like this, because it makes being out actually way more interesting in a way than actually being in. So that's kind of cool. You don't get prosecuted in a way for being killed. You have this extra layer of enjoyment that you can enjoy once you're out, which is nice. But so if you're interested in checking out BAM, it's on Steam. It works with the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, and is available for $10.99 in British pounds, $14.99 in US dollars. And if you actually win a round of BAM, you get a turkey dinner. It's winner
turkey dinner.
Yeah. So no chicken dinners, just turkey dinners for everyone in VR. So that's kind of cool.
So worth that price.
I like.
Oh, there's also a gun game mode, by the way, with 38 weapons. They got a lot of guns. Like the guns look amazing. The environments need some help.
Yeah, I think as well, like we've talked about the game mode, I think being the standout thing with this game. All it's going to take is someone that does the shooting thing better to implement that mode in their game, and then potentially you've got a new king of PUBG in VR then, in my opinion. But we'll see. So moving on again to Blade Runner in VR. So Blade Runner 2049, the Memory Lab, is now available on Oculus Rift and Gear VR for free. You can check it out. Obviously, it's a movie tie-in with the latest movie, Blade Runner 2049. I don't know if any of you guys have actually checked out the new movie. Zim?
The new movie, sorry, not the movie. I've done the VR thing. I raised my hand too early.
Okay. So I think that makes three of us that have done the game then. Obviously, I've seen the original film. I was looking forward to seeing the sequel, but I just didn't have time when we was in California. It was a crazy time for us all. But I have to say, like, out of all the movie tie-in experiences I've tried on the Oculus Rift, this was the best one by far. Just purely because it's got so much interaction within the experience. So it's kind of like a murder mystery story where I don't want to give any spoilers away, but you kind of like use some mechanics a bit similar to Batman Arkham VR, where you're sort of scanning scenes, looking for clues, trying to solve a mystery around this kind of murder.
It's a Blade Runner themed scanning simulator, basically.
Yeah, that's right. But it's around 20 to 25 minutes, which I thought was a nice length. Yeah. And it's free, obviously.
Yeah. What do you think of the quality, Mike? Because I found, like, it's the first game, I'll say, it's the first game which photogrammetry has been a convincing addition. Okay, it wasn't perfect, but it was close.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to come on to that. And this is the thing, like the way that, because they almost did like full motion capture, like full motion video, but overlaid it onto an animated model. Which made it look really interesting in terms of an effect. It's not something that I've seen in VR before, but it was definitely really cool.
I don't think that's it, actually, Mike. I think the way it works, so photogrammetry takes a bunch of different angles and stitches the image together and creates a 3D model. So it's not like you're taking a video and then wrapping the image around it. It's rather that data already is creating a kind of a 3D form, which is what you can tell is if someone's standing up, right? And like right here, in the kind of pit of the armpit, you'll see that there's a bit of like artifacting, and that's how you can tell it's photogrammetry as opposed to what you mentioned, which you see in airports, which is like pane of glass and a hologram presented onto it.
Right. That's interesting. I didn't know that was the case, but yeah, it's a really nice effect, and it made it look really stand out from everything else I'd seen.
Like the best thing was like because you go to a part of the city of Blade Runner, so you can explore that. and it's very nice. Like you can look into stores. Everything has been like, it's very detailed. Like I found a guy who was like tapping things on his phone, and then I looked at this phone. He actually had like a picture of someone he was calling. I don't know why. No one would actually look that close to, but it was there. So
like, Nathan, you've played it. It's kind of like an updated version of Technolust. Like Technolust tried, and this I think succeeds.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, that's right. And also, I mean, the way you can go to certain places, there is a lot of space, but it just seems like the people who made it got enough time this time to actually develop it. And that's the problem we see, where they need to go real fast, where, like, let's say if Spider-Man was like this, then everyone was like, wow, you know,
whoa. No spoilers. I've not played Spider-Man yet, please.
yeah. So, I mean, there was almost, like, I can tell you, there's almost no gameplay in this whole experience, but the way it looks is just, wow, you know, I'm in the future. And that made it very cool. And that's what they want. They want you to go to the movies. After you played this experience, you need to get excited. And I think they did get me excited over like how it looks. Not so much the gameplay, also not because there were different scenes you were going to. I think the city itself was like, bam, right in my face, nice. Rest, okay. With like the characters you were like interacting with in a way. Yeah, okay. I mean, I've seen better, to be honest, but like this has been around for a while. Like Insurgent, for example, had like a movie-based experience where a train was coming at you. Like it was riding through your body, okay? Like this one, I didn't really feel the tension in a way. It could have been more like it's VR, so you see depth, so you can really get people a little scared, or it's like, oh,
but
there's someone.
Does that cheapen the experience? I actually find that you know, jump scares and like I find it's kind of like. You see someone do a YouTube video for the first time, all the flashy effects and all that. Like you can definitely overkill it. And I see that in indie devs. You know, you've mentioned before, Nathie, and I think we share a common like for lasers in VR. The amount that we see that and like HUDs popping up just fucking over everything. You know, people overdo it. And I think they could do a lot better, and it feels a lot nicer if you underdo it.
Yeah, true. It's just like I missed like the particle part of it, or the effects where, you know, you got maybe animals or like something flying around, or like some papers that roll over like the ground, you know, like it was nicely made, but it wasn't like I saw any effects, but then they were like nitpicking on something that is free, but
yeah, it didn't feel very alive. I agree with you. There wasn't like, you know, trash blowing around or anything that felt kind of live. It felt very static, almost like a 1990s game where you come in, it's just models all around that are all static.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would totally welcome more movie tie-ins adopt something like this. I think they've almost set the standard in a way, like this is what you should use as your baseline and try and improve it in a way, because we've seen so many. Like I've played loads. I've played like Ghost in the Shell, like the It experience, the Alien experience as well, and they've all kind of either been like 360 movies, or they've kind of been a little bit interaction that you can move around, but you can't actually interact with anything within the game world, whereas this kind of changed that, and you kind of were involved in the story in a way. So that was really, really nice. And yeah, it does work because it builds up hype for a movie. You know, I'm super excited about checking out the movie. I know that some people have kind of been a bit about it, but I really like the original, so I'm definitely going to be checking out the new movie. So obviously if you want to check out Blade Runner, it is a free experience available on the Oculus Rift and Gear VR, so you can check that one out as well. And
or you play with Revive.
Or you can play it with Revive, yeah. That is very, very true.
It works really well. So
I don't want to leave out any of our Rift viewers, because I know there's probably a few of them.
Actually, in terms of compatibility and support, this week I was actually checking out stuff that we were talking about last week. So like Five Nights at Freddy's and BAM. Like I've found over time there seems to be a slight degradation in the Steam hosted titles supported on Rift. And I wouldn't say it's more than 10% of the population, but I've seen control issues. I've seen a biased support towards the Vive. Obviously, it's on the Steam store, so it makes sense. But I have seen, like, I couldn't even get Five Nights at Freddy's to run on the Rift. And they were like, we have support. But I think it was test support or something to that effect. So I'll be running it on the Vive. But for people who are Rift owners and only Rift owners, I wonder because I get asked this question a lot, which headset, right, to buy. And I often say Rift because it's got the most compatibility, but I've kind of seen that going a little bit back. I wonder what you guys have
well, I mean, as well. Mike and I played a shooter yesterday. I was playing on the Vive. He was playing on the Rift. He couldn't exit the game. He had to like reopen the game every time we played around because he was using touch. Well, I was just like, hey, bye, Mike. See ya. I was just going back to the menu. I was like, so yeah.
That is
the other way around works a lot better, to be honest. Like when I go into a Rift title, of course, you got always that awkward, like if you need to hold something with a Vive controller with Revive, it's really hard. It makes you very tired in your hands. But the other way around, like Mike couldn't exit the game anymore. It's like impossible.
Yeah, I was stuck in the metaverse forever.
Yeah, he was stuck in the metaverse, pretty much.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think he was like, use both grip buttons to return to the menu, and it just didn't work with the touch. So it was a shame. Like I had to literally exit the game and then restart it to then join another match again.
Yeah, and the game was not built for the Oculus Touch. It was built for the Vive.
That is true. Like they never said in their spiel that they were supporting the Oculus.
No, but you did expect. You did expect to go in there, and it worked. And it did work. The rest worked, but just the joining, leaving, and it had to do like with the triggers and the grip. That was the only thing he had to like press at the same time, and that was the issue. Yeah.
Before Mike kindly ushers us on to the next topic, I'm gonna just ask you guys a question. Given we're on this subject, what is your? I'll start with Bro. I'm gonna put you on the spot, dude. So, what is your favorite multiplayer experience that you've had with VR this year? I have to think about it for a minute, but I'm really curious what people's answer.
That's a tough one because I feel like when it comes to like a multiplayer experience, like I've mostly seen like gun games, and I don't want to say like I don't want to just say like Onward, and because it's like a classic. I don't know. I started playing Onward again not too long ago, and I feel like through all the updates they've done and all the things they've added, it's just such a good VR gun game. But I'm biased towards that, so I don't want to say one thing and then completely leave out the fact that there's a lot of multiplayer games that aren't just that. But I would definitely say Onward because I played Pavlov and all that stuff, and I just feel like Onward still just takes the cake for me as the best VR gun like shooter game. It's just so good.
It's got a good community as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So that would be my answer for you.
Nathie, what about yours?
I would say VR chat, and it's just like I'm like I also got an obsession for VR chat because there are a lot of different groups in VR chat that like live there basically. You got like, let's say the manga anime thing that I don't really understand what it is, but I think it's very cute. You got like cute characters, and they give you presents and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm like I'm really confused. And then you got people that act like Rick and Morty, and it's like a whole like, and people build their own worlds, and they're like, Nathie, you need to check out my world. It's really fun. So I would say that's the one, but it's also because it's a very modded community where everyone can just be like, if you want to be Winnie the Pooh, or you want to be Mickey Mouse, or you can be whatever you want, and that's really nice. You can just be whatever you want, and they also seem to accept everyone there. Like if you are a little strange, or you have problems to socialize, or things like that. They don't care. Like it's a very nice community, but that's like something that is around since the beginning.
Yeah, it's been that way since the early days, hasn't it?
But like new stuff, I don't know. I mean, I also enjoy Altspace, but that's like VR chat in the end is like one of the best social apps right now, VR wise. It's fun.
Cool.
So
and Mike.
So the two standout ones for me are Werewolves Within and Star Trek Bridge Crew. Just because of the social aspect of those games, I enjoyed them both immensely because, I'm not really a competitive person, but I do enjoy playing co-op style games. So Bridge Crew, where you had to work as a team together, was really, really nice. But I did like the devious side of Werewolves Within, where you have to lie to other people and convince them that you're telling the truth. For some reason, that resonates with me in some weird, dark way. Moving on to the future, though, one title that I'm really looking forward to, and it was going to be a co-op experience, is From Other Suns. I only got to play the beta with one other person, and that was PD, Paradise Decay, a good friend of the show. But I'm looking forward to playing it with more people and having that experience of controlling a ship and exploring planets and other ships with other players. That's going to be the one that I'm really going to be excited about.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
That's in a week, isn't it?
Not long at all. No. It's going to be. What about yourself, dude?
In terms of what's coming in the future, or back to my question?
This year.
Yeah, both
your
maybe.
Your question.
God, I think BAM is definitely the one of the week, right? Like, I mean, the last 2-3 weeks, it's just like bam, bam, thank you, ma'am, right? Before that, and I did get to play a lot. I'm talking 16 hours over 2.5 days worth of From Other Suns, which, if you didn't know, I got this from the devs at OC4. The original name, because I gave him all kinds of guff about the name, because From Other Suns to me is very difficult to remember. The original name was Fistful of Stars, and to me that is just like such a cool Western tie back. And I just, that game brought me so many hours of joy. I'm looking forward to that like nothing else. The other thing that I would say, because I'm a big fan of like racers or fast-paced games where you don't blink, Redout VR multiplayer. Aside from the multiplayer lobbies, which seem to break every time I try to host, the actual experience is just bloody fast, colorful, fantastic.
Wow.
Love that.
So for those that don't know Redout, it's essentially Wipeout in VR, right?
Yeah. I would probably say F-Zero, but then again, I'm an F-Zero dude, so.
Yeah. Cool. So, From Other Suns is definitely one I think we're all pretty excited about.
Yeah, I'm just really curious how advanced it's going to be, because we played the demo, was basic in a way of what you could do. So how far does this go? Like, how much can we explore? How do we get rewarded? What is the progression system? That keeps you playing anyway in the end. So, like if I'm like waving at Zim and I'm like, hey, I found a nice weapon because I was on this planet. But you're like level 5, you need to be level 50 to get it, man. So have fun for the upcoming months to get it, That's the thing, like, yeah.
I don't think it'll be, my judgment of it is that it won't be that hardcore, but I think I think playtime will be like 10 to 12 hours if I was to guess off of the sample that we had in terms of kind of completing the game, if you want to call it that. But it seems a very replayable experience, and I didn't think a 3-person team was going to work so well, but it works really well. And you get to cover enough spaces, so you like leave one person on your ship and you send 2 people over and they go try to like, take down the enemies, and sometimes you teleport a ship and it's bloody massive. Like 6 different floors and a captain that, there's got 40 guys guarding them. Like, that game has some depth. And that was just in the 10 jump demo. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we will have the devs on later, right? Like,
so
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah,
I'm not sure I was allowed to say this, but I'm walking way by.
The cat's out of the bag now. But yeah, so like Nathie said, we're working on at the moment to get the developers on in the very near future. So maybe sort of shortly after release, we may have them on to talk about their game. It's unconfirmed right now, but we're sort of trying to pencil them in. So that is a little tease there for what we've got coming up in the future. We are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to try and get you developers on and people that are really interesting in the VR industry to talk about different topics in VR. So it'll be interesting to see what we have coming up in the very near future. But I just want to sort of wrap it up with one final sort of topic, and that is an update to I Expect You to Die. So this was a fairly sort of early title when Touch literally just came out, and it's from Shell Games. And it's essentially like a puzzle escape room style game where it pits you as like a kind of secret agent, and you're placed in these environments where you've kind of got to solve little puzzles to escape and complete your mission. So it is a really, really fun title to play. I haven't actually covered it on the channel, but I have played it quite a bit. But recently they dropped an update called First Class, which puts you on a train. Isn't that right, Zim?
Yes, a train, a devious train.
Devious train. So this is kind of your bag, isn't it, Zim? You like these kind of games.
I love room escape games. Like, there was one that was called, I don't know, Escape VR or something like that, which was made by a dude, and it was a block cell, and there was a gate up here. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I'll have to link that or something for you guys, because there are some Room Escape games out there that are just brilliant. And honestly, I Expected to Die as the brand. I mean, Shell Games just, they set the bar, simply put, right? The quality of everything, the voice acting, the intro that's like 007 style. Honestly, the game's worth buying in just for the intro, just to see that in VR. And if you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube if you want. But I would rather say go buy the game and try it that way. Definitely worth the money. You have, I think now, 5 different levels with the new edition. And it's kind of the perfect package. Like, it's not too long, it's not too short. And the new level, which you have to have beat the other 4 first, the new level is about an hour and a half long. It took me an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
So
that's pretty good for an escape the room game.
It is pretty brutal. If you're good at room escape stuff, I think it'll take you that length, maybe an hour. I can't really say much else without giving something away. It's the benefit of room escape games is figuring stuff out for yourself with no spoilers. So I would say don't look at stuff, right? Just go and play it. And if you like that kind of thing, check out Room Escape in real life. I did Room Escape for the first time myself when I was in the States, and I've heard that the UK sadly doesn't parallel the excitement of US Room Escape experiences. But have any of you guys done Room Escape? Because it's bloody good.
I've watched some videos. It looks really sweet.
Yeah. I remember you invited me to come along, and I think it was just after the show, and I'd like worked throughout the night, and my eyeballs were bleeding, and I just needed sleep, and I was gutted I missed out on it. But please tell us what it was all like.
It was so we actually ended up with like this. I think they were Indian or Thai. There was a bride, obviously to be, and like it was a hen party basically, right? So there was like 7 of them and 3 of us. And so we all got told you're going to be going into a room, yada yada, and you can't break the furniture apart, please, stuff like that. You can't, nothing's above reaching level, all that kind of stuff. And then they lock you in this room, and the things that really stood out to me are like, there was a drawer, right? There were references to like Death Note, a Death Note comic book that was sitting on a thing here. You had to find the page in the book that related to something on the drawer, and then there were pieces of clues all over the place. There was stuff like you turn the light off, and there was letters written on the walls. It was awesome. Insane. You had to assemble all these bits. The coolest thing for me to talk about it, which I probably shouldn't, but you won't know the one I'm talking about, was there was a drawer that pulled out, and on the bottom it had a tiny little hole, and you had to take a pen and poke the hole, and the fake board on the bottom of the drawer would pop up, and under that was like a secret code message and a key, and it was like, heck, this is like so cool. Like the amount of places they figured out how to hide stuff.
That's so sweet.
I could hide stuff all over my house. My wife would never know.
So spoiler, did you actually manage to escape?
Well, he's sitting there, right? So I mean, escaping.
The good thing is, like, one of the things that
he has the pen too that he did.
My camera is going crazy. I don't know, but
that's better.
We did not escape.
Oh, really?
We did not escape in time. It was a timed experience, so we got quite close, but we were about 2 clues away. But like we went in, we there was a locked room inside a room, so you can imagine like 3/4 of the room open air. 1/4 closed, and one of the guys who was like leading our party, like we got the key, we got it into the thing, we had to get in there to figure out how to get out of the bigger room. He runs in and he like screams because there's blood all over the walls. This little girl sitting in the corner, like it was really well done. And he just was not expecting that. So if you have a chance, try one because they're bloody fun. Even if you're with strangers, you're working together. So
yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
That's interesting as well. Like in America, it's very popular. I know in the UK, it's not. Funny, here it's very popular. They got like big prison complexes built, like
Jesus.
And then they also, for some reason, it's also on television now, where famous TV personalities and YouTubers are trying to escape rooms, and they get points for escaping rooms together or with a team. Sometimes they need to do it alone. They have like an entire show built around it now on television. It's a fun show. Yeah, they got it on TV now. You're seeing people escape, trying to figure stuff out.
I have to educate people, Nathie, on the basis of that.
Yeah.
Because the UK had this, and I think the rest of the world deserves to hear about Takeshi's Castle.
Yeah.
Takeshi's Castle, which is a Japanese program where they pit 100 people. It's like Battlegrounds, right? They take 100 people and they throw them through a grinder, basically. And there's a series of events. Most of the shows conclude with no one winning. That's how brutal it is. And also the number, if you look it up, the number of like broken bones and stuff like that, it is rough.
Oh man, that's the funniest show ever. Yeah. No, it is.
So say like you're in the escape room and you're just like, this is getting a bit too crazy. Do you have like a secret code word that you can like shout out so they'll let you out, a bit like the Crystal Maze?
There's like an attendee with you who,
okay.
if you're really off topic, will give you little clues.
Oh, okay.
Like, so, I mean, he did drop us a clue or two, to be honest. So it wasn't, you know, we got to 90% with a bit of help.
Right. Yeah. So there you have it, guys. You know, if you want to check out a VR escape room, you know, maybe ease yourself in without expecting you to die, and then move on to some real hardcore, real life ones.
There you go.
But yeah, I Expect You to Die is available on Steam and the Oculus Store for $18.99 in British pounds, $24.99 in US dollars. So check that one out as well. So I just want to sort of round off today's show with maybe some questions from the chat. So I don't know how the chat's been doing. Is people being active, or is no one watching the show? I don't actually know. Because I can never actually open the chat because it will kill my internet and I'll fall out. So.
Also, before we wrap it up, we still got one more important one to talk about. That's the Melita cinematic experience. Oculus Home. Maybe not that much of an interesting thing for most gamers out there, but if you like short films, Disney, Pixar kind of movies in VR, then I would definitely check it out. It's beautiful. It's a very powerful story, and the art style is great too. And also important, nice transitions from one scene to another. You don't have the feeling you're going from one to another. It's like, you know, you got segments of times where you go to, like, you go to the next day, and you go to the next. So it's really nice. It's about global Earth warming, you know, like the climate change we got going on right now. Maybe a little bit too extreme in a way. I found it like very like, okay, I'm a human. I'm wrong. You know, maybe I should change. Or maybe I should empty my garbage can and stuff like that. But no, it's beautiful in a way. Like you can see how it affects the world and in VR. So
is the way it's presented? I haven't actually seen that. I'll check that out. Is that presented like Senza Peso, like you're along for the ride, or is there an activity to it?
That's a good one. It's not. So they got three modes. First, you watch like the cinematic mode. So that's the whole movie. It takes around 30 to 40 minutes to finish. There's a moving camera. They warn you for the fact that it's a seated experience, but if you don't have a chair, you can play it standing too. But there's a camera moving from time to time. So it depends on how much you can handle. So there is no way you can really interact. You can walk around a bit, but you can't change from a position within the story. But you are really close to the characters. You're really standing next to them like you're a sidekick or a team member. But they don't talk to you, so you're not there. It's like you're a ghost. So when you finished it, you can also go into a mode where you can explore. You can just go to some of the scenes and just teleport around, interact with some objects. You can't really, you can just pick them up. It's not that special.
What was the name of this again, Nathie? I didn't catch it at the start.
Melita.
M-E-L-I-D-A?
M-E-L-I-T-A.
Melita. Oh, okay, Melita.
Yeah.
And does that stand for something?
It's called Melita, A Human Journey. And from seeing it, I assume Melita is the name of the main character. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. And there is one more game mode, and that one allows you to watch the movie again, but this time from a giant's perspective. So you can look down at the tiny characters interacting. I don't really know why they did that one, but it's there. So if you want to be a giant, then I mean, it's kind of, I want to make people excited for this one, but it's kind of hard because it's a cinematic thing. Like, again, it really added up to my whole like live experience where I think like, yeah, we're right. We should change this in how we live or stuff like that. So I really felt for the characters in a way. So yeah.
Nice style to it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just checked it out, and I have actually got this, so it's on my list of experiences to check out, which is like just growing by the day. But if you want to pick this up, it's available on the Oculus Store for $3.99 in British pounds, which is probably about sort of $6 or $7. But like you say, it's kind of like an interactive movie experience in a way.
You just play it once, and that's about it. So you got 40 minutes of popcorn time, and that's about it.
Oh, it's not bad. The thing I was going to say is that we seem to be heading into, in the month of November, I might have mentioned it, obviously with Christmas and things coming up, there's a lot of things hitting us in November. Like, if I put them on a list, it's a long list, and there's some big, heavy things hitting. For those PS4 owners, there's a lot of big titles hitting. Obviously, Doom, Skyrim, Fallout. You know, we've got Foz, so From Other Suns hitting. I mean, God, this November is going to be very heavy for us content creators.
Yeah, and the only the only overused genre we are going to see, and it's like last year it was the same, snow fight games. Like that's the thing. Everyone creates snow fight games. Oh, yeah. And it's fun to throw snowballs at each other, but for some reason they got all kinds of snowball games.
I saw that recently. Yeah. There's one where you like do a snow fortress and you build your snow fortress and you're like, why is that fun for more than like 2 minutes? I don't know.
People try something with the Christmas times, and everyone's wallets is like flying around. So, I mean, I get their point. It's just like, you know, check the reviews, then buy something. Also, when it's Christmas, I know Gabe Newell is like a magnet, and he's pulling you into your PC. Like, same happens for me. But take it easy, okay, please. Same for Oculus Home. I mean, Oculus Home last year had like a lot of nice deals, you know, where they had like nice bundles. It's like, oh, which one should I buy? Like as a YouTuber, I don't have that problem, but I do feel people where it's like, oh, but that bundle, I already got 2 of those games, and they do compensate you for that. So that's also very useful.
Do they now? Because they didn't before.
They do now, yeah. So if you own a couple of titles from a bundle, you will get the associated discount.
So it's like prorated then?
Yeah, so it's nice. So, you know, you don't feel like you're missing out in a way, which is really cool.
Genius.
Yeah. The thing I was going to say, guys, because we're coming up, it's a very much a UK-specific thing. But Guy Fawkes night is coming tomorrow, right? So we usually blow off a lot of fireworks. There's a VR title, which I had a lot of fun with. It's really simple. I don't know what the price is, but it was really low. Pyro VR, if you don't have fireworks and you want to just have a blast, literally, you can go into a warehouse with fireworks and just blow the feck out of all of it. And it's actually hilarious fun just to do that. So if you don't mind, like, spending for 20 minutes of Glee, that's a good title.
Sweet.
Remember the 5th of November. Gum, treason, and plot. Something Pyro VR should never be forgotten.
So any questions from the chat before we wrap up this week's show?
Yeah,
let's have a little look.
Let's see. We also had 2 donations, by the way. Thanks, Sweeviver and David. Oh, has a very strange second name, Oulet or something. It sounds French.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
And he did say, did you all see all the weld prototypes on Road to VR? I'm not sure if that was bound to our Pimax conversation or that I'm not sure if anyone has something to say about that, but.
But what I would say is, you know, like if Sweeviver is an awesome dude, he's a friend of us, and if you want to check out his video on the Pimax, you know, it's very detailed. It's a very nice video. So go and check that out if you're interested in the Pimax. He's probably the one that's probably covered it more than anyone else. So I'll check that out.
Yeah. No, but it's nice to see donations coming by from time to time.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Much appreciated. Yeah, okay, so we see one. Are you guys going to play Skyrim VR? I think so. Everyone is curious.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I think we're all going to check it out. But, you know, from the very first show, I know that you went to Gamescom and checked it out and said that, you know, it might be a bit disappointing, so...
Oh, no, don't.
I sold my soul, guys.
So Zim is showing a box of the PlayStation Move controllers. So he's going deep into PSVR.
I literally swore that this wouldn't happen, but I held off. I was like, come on, Sony, I know you've put in the patents for it. You're going to revise your motion controllers before a big title hits. Come on. But no.
So that you need those, I take it, for Skyrim, do you?
Yeah, if you want any, you know, because I played with, what was the game now?
Play without moves.
There's some games you can play with or without move, and it can be awkward if you're using the DualShock controller. I've kind of limped along, and then recently I bought a game and realized it was move only, so that incentivized me first. And then these titles coming, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll cave. They're not that pricey. I'll just go for the electronic ice cream cones.
Yeah, that's what they're asking. Any idea if these big names are coming to PC as well? Yes. Fallout and Doom will be on the PC.
And the Vive. Yeah.
Yes, the Vive. And Doom will also be on a PlayStation VR, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you got Skyrim is for PSVR only.
Yeah.
And we don't know how long that's going to take before this timed exclusive is over, but it will take a few months, maybe 6 months.
We should talk about that. There's been loads of spike up on Reddit and that because of the changes to locomotion, or at least the announcement. They're like, oh, you can actually do smooth locomotion now in these titles, and that was a huge concern for people, certainly for me, because I was like, I do not want to be teleporting. It just breaks the immersion every time you fucking jump.
No, I like every game right now besides Doom is you can all like walk around. Only Doom is using a dashing teleportation system.
But Dash is okay. Like I don't have the same issues with Dash as I do teleport.
That is also the only game that has been built from the ground up for VR. The other ones are part of VR games. That's a huge difference. Just saying.
Yeah.
So
menus in that, right?
Beware. Yeah.
Did you have actually, Nathie? I think you had you had some experience with it. Did you try Skyrim's menus? Because it's a very menu-laden game, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
Well, I mean, I played a demo, and maybe it was an early demo. It was kind of clumsy in a way, but it's also because I would say if you use the moves a lot more, then I think it's easier to get into that. I really had to like awkwardly go from, but I mean, the menu is. You can do so many things, and you know how Skyrim menu works. It's the same in VR.
I've literally never played it.
Up, down. You can also go up, down. So it's like going to a different tab, up, and then to the left again. So I don't know. Hopefully they will change that a bit. But like the moves, like let's be honest, the moves don't have that many buttons. So you do need to be a little creative in a way with the X and the. I mean, they have it all in the middle, so you know how to find them. But
I'm literally educating myself right now.
Yeah,
all right, so it's got
like,
the X,
like all the.
It's got all the PlayStation buttons, right? The four key ones, a middle one, and a home button, basically.
Let's say if you are a PSVR owner, I think you will have no problem. If you are a noob like me that plays way too many PC stuff, you know, I'm more on the PC side here, then you will struggle a bit. But I think it will be fine in the end. And they will patch some stuff. I mean, Bethesda is usually on it with patches. You know, they always seem to fix their stuff. I mean, it's an open world game, so expect some funny bugs where you're stuck with your horse on a mountain again. Welcome to Skyrim. Then yeah, that's Skyrim for you.
Yeah.
But
that's the life.
Yeah, that's
okay, guys. So I think we're going to end our week's episode there. So just to remind you all again, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathie's YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at 4 p.m. in Europe, 3 p.m. in UK, and 10 a.m. in Central US. If you missed the podcast, you can catch up with it every Sunday where I upload the whole video to my own YouTube channel, Virtual Reality Oasis. And you can also listen to the audio-only version available on Google Play Music and on iTunes. So thank you again for everyone that has watched and everyone who is listening to this show. And thank you again for the donations as well. That's super, super kind of you guys. And we're just having a great time doing this. So let us know in the comments and keep those questions coming and the feedback coming because we really, really appreciate it. And we just want to make this thing the best thing it can possibly be. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for our audio listeners as well. And we'll see you on next week's show. Thanks again.
See you next week, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.